All right, we're talking everything future bets, tips and tricks for betting them, and I have some NFL future awards bets I made that I'm going to discuss as well. But first, just so we're all on the same page here, a future bet is exactly what it sounds like. It's making a bet where the result won't be known for a certain amount of time. Betting on like who's going to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season, that's a future bet, or over under a team's season wins. There's all different types of future bets. Most of you probably won't have this problem, but it's worth mentioning where you decide to place a future bet is very important. There's been more than a couple times I've made a future bet with a bookie, and for different reasons, by the time it got graded, I no longer had a relationship with the bookie. So, the first thing in regards to betting future bets is the stability of the sports book. You don't want to place a future bet with a bookie who might not even be a bookie in 6 or 7 months down the road. I mean, it's nice when the future bet loses and you don't have to pay, but no worse feeling to win a future bet and then the bookie's like MIA or out of business. Now, this is easily solved by simply placing future bets with established, regulated sports books like DraftKings or FanDuel, but there's other issues with that, like having that money tied up for so long, um, when that money could be maybe used better making other bets. After all, like sports betting is all about ROI, return on investment. So some future bets, depending on like the bet size and odds, might not be worth risking 100 to win 75 over a 6 month period. Future bets in general are considered somewhat of like a soft, beatable market. Years ago, before states started making sports betting legal, the options for what type of future bets you could make were significantly fewer than they are today. With the influx of bettors and the sports books fighting for customers, they offer every imaginable future bet now. And as a result, the sports books have gotten much better at creating odds and spreads on these futures. Same can be said for props. They just have a lot more experience pricing props now. Um, Before it was such a small market that didn't get a lot of betting action. I don't know if this is like the best example, but it's relative. Like NFL regular season win totals. My hometown ball club, New England Patriots, coming off back to back 4 win seasons. With it being a team I follow closely, I was looking at all the money the Patriots are spending this offseason on free agent signings. Patriots have spent the most money this offseason by more than $100 million. I obviously like the Vrabel hire. And finally, their schedule, when it got released, it being a top 5 easiest strength of schedule, I was immediately interested in betting their win total over. I was shocked when I saw it listed at 8.5 games. I mean, for any team that is coming off 2 straight seasons of only 4 wins, even with them making a bunch of positive personnel changes that will help improve the team, you might see an adjustment up of maybe 2 or 3 wins, not more than double the amount of wins. Which, back to my point, the sportsbooks are much better at adjusting year to year and having stronger opinions pricing these bets, along with like a more understanding of the public perception of how teams will perform. Bottom line is the sportsbooks are sharper because they have to be. There's just more money at stake. And also, quickly speaking of win totals, I can't express enough how important it is to line shop with these. You can find some huge differences from sportsbook to sportsbook, especially months before the season starts. And when betting season long stuff, I don't mind laying juice to get a better number, especially when you have like a split line here. Same team, but different win totals on different sports books. Jets over 5.5 minus 155. Jets over 6 minus 115. Now, if this was a decision of like betting over an NHL total on these numbers, I'd probably go over 6 minus 115 and add that push probability in. But with season long bets like this, I much prefer to take a little extra juice on over 5.5 and get a winnable number. Because keep in mind, when locking up money for an extended period of time like this, for like a whole season, just to push is basically a loss in my mind. ROI is like the only thing that matters, not win percentage. So risking X amount of money and it to land on 6, yeah, you get your money back, but it isn't a win. Sure, it's better than losing, but it still ain't a win. Um, the next example with the Rams is kind of like a no-brainer really here. I just grabbed this one quick. Rams over 10, minus 115. Rams over 9.5, minus 140. For only 25 cents more, you can get over 9.5. With NFL win totals, one game is worth about 50 cents in juice. So half a game is worth roughly 25 cents or minus 125 with win total. So keep that in mind when looking at different prices and Just to be clear, this doesn't mean I am recommending you start betting alternate win totals laying minus 300 in juice. Just figure out the math based on 50 cents juice being worth one game. And if you have several different options to compare lines, you might even be able to find some good middle opportunities. I have a few different middles locked in this season, just like this one here with Miami. I got over 7.5 wins, minus 105, under 8.5 wins at minus 150. Yeah, I'm risking juice, but really I only need like one of these middle opportunities to win. If Miami wins exactly 8 games, I win both bets. And if you think about it, there isn't like a super wide range of outcomes when it comes to regular season wins. I mean, Miami could win only 2 games or they could win 14 games. Anything's possible, but even with like extreme outliers, the probability of Miami winning, like I guess on the low end 5 games and on the high end 10 games, is all relatively like a small window. 7 or 8 wins are most likely. And there's always the possibility of like hedging down the road in the final games of the season. I was able to find 4 of these middle opportunities with the Jets, Vikings, and Patriots. I only attempt these win total middles on teams I don't really have a strong opinion on, because if I did, I would have just bet the side I liked instead. But these middle attempts are all on teams I don't have a strong opinion on either their over, under wins. But let's get into some award bets I made, starting with 2025 NFL's most valuable player. When it comes to MVP, there's some specific parameters that almost all MVP winners share. First, I'm simply looking at quarterbacks that play on teams that win a lot of games. 17 of the last MVP winners have been quarterbacks, and the average wins for those teams they played on is roughly 13 wins. No MVP has been on a team with less than 11 wins, at least not in the past 25 years. The last 15 years, no quarterback has won MVP on a team that had playoff odds worse than plus 300. Matt Ryan won MVP in 2016, and his team's odds for the Falcons to make the playoffs were plus 300. Of the last 18 quarterbacks to win MVP, only 7 of them were first-time winners, so having already won an MVP kind of helps a case to win again. No quarterback that won MVP had negative EPA per dropback the year prior to winning MVP. When Lamar Jackson won, he had the worst EPA numbers the prior season in 2018, and it was exactly 0.0. That was his rookie season, and then he won the MVP. So based on these factors, I'm going with Josh Allen to go back-to-back. I got plus 600 odds. I don't see any reason why he can't repeat the season he just had with an improved team, a more favorable strength of schedule. He's probably more motivated now than ever, still chasing that Super Bowl and having built up so much scar tissue, being so close enough to taste it. In terms of like more of long shots, I'm looking at Jordan Love at 25-1 odds. I like Green Bay as a team. Think we see Love make a big leap year. He played hurt for a lot of games last year, and his wide receivers really let him down last year, dropping passes at the 5th highest rate. Green Bay also faced the single toughest schedule of opposing pass defenses. The NFC North division is very tough overall, but the schedule will be much easier this year for them. They have a young, talented group of wide receivers, adding speedster Matthew Golden. Any one of these wide receivers could emerge as like the number one guy. Let's go to 2025 NFL Offensive Player of the Year. This award is basically for the best non-quarterback. The last 6 winners have all been skill position guys, running backs or wide receivers. The last 15 winners have all been on teams that made the playoffs, and all their teams won at least 10 games or more. Of all the skill position winners since 1999, all were 28 years old or younger, so this isn't like an old man veteran award, but a rookie has never won Offensive Player of the Year either. With it being such a pass-dominated league now, I'm looking more towards wide receivers. The last 3 wide receivers to win Offensive Player of the Year led the league in receiving yards, and I think Drake London has a really good chance to lead the league in receiving yards. I really like the long shot odds of 50-1. Falcons QB Michael Penix Jr. seems to look London's way a ton. In the limited games Penix started last year, he targeted him 40 times. Drake London averaged 117 yards receiving in those 3 games. And as I talk about the Falcons team preview, they play a lot of indoor games in controlled weather environments, and they play a pretty easy schedule of opposing pass defenses, so this should help the offensive production. Um, Puka Nakua is interesting too. His odds went from plus 2,200 down to plus 1,600 just in the past couple weeks. Kind of wish I grabbed 20 to 1 on him. He got steamed. Someone bet them, or someone bet him. Let's move on to 2025's NFL Defensive Player of the Year. The past Defensive Player of the Year winners all seem to fit a certain criteria. It's always like a well established elite defender on a good team. It's not some random player out of nowhere who had like a breakout year. 9 of the last 11 winners have been defensive linemen, although Patrick Surtain won last year. Only 6 defensive backs have won the award the last 25 years. Surprisingly, linebackers almost never win it. Last time a linebacker won was in 2013, so I'm looking first at defensive linemen. Of the last 10 D linemen to win, they all had double-digit sacks. A rookie has never won Defensive Player of the Year. The last 15 players to win have been younger than 29 years old. Of the last 16 Defensive Player of the Year winners, all of them except one were on teams that made the playoffs. Last season, I bet on Chop Robinson to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He obviously didn't win, but he started to really come on at the year's end. He started out slow, but if it was based on performance just from week 9 on, he probably would have won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Even with that slow start, he quietly finished 5th among edge rushers in pressure rate. He had 7 sacks in his last 8 games. I'm tempted to bet on him at super long shot odds of like 100 to 1. But a more realistic pick here is Will Anderson Jr. He seems to check all the boxes. If he stays healthy, he should have no problem getting double-digit sacks on this Texans defense. One thing that really helps Will Anderson or any Texans pass rusher is the coverage sacks. The cover corners on the Texans are so good that it gives those pass rushers like extra time to get to the quarterback. I got Will Anderson Jr. at plus 1,400. He was at plus 1,600 in June. Next, let's go to 2025's NFL Coach of the Year. If you watch any team previews I did on Arizona Cardinals, you know I'm pretty high on them in general and think they play above expectation. Well, the Coach of the Year award is basically given to the coach of the team that outperforms regular season expectations, and because I think Arizona does exactly that, I'm going with their head coach, Jonathan Gannon, at plus 2,000. He went from a 4-12 record as first-year head coach to 8-9 this past year, and I think that pattern continues, and he improves again in his 3rd year. Arizona won those 8 games last year against a very tough schedule. Now with a much improved roster and playing a weaker schedule, I think 10 wins is very possible. Of course, Vrabel and Ben Johnson are both set up on teams that they should improve drastically from last season. That's why they're the favorites. I actually found a plus 1,000 price on Vrabel and took it just because the price is so much higher than most other books have him at. But I do really think Arizona can win their division and get to double-digit wins. And if they do, Gannon will have to be considered strongly for Coach of the Year. Next up, let's go to 2025's NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. Unlike most of the other awards that typically require the player to be on a team that wins a lot of games, Rookie of the Year is an exception, and past winners are often on losing teams, which in theory makes perfect sense. Rookie of the Year winners are usually top draft picks, which teams draft top draft picks. They're usually the bad ones. The last 7 Offensive Rookie of the Year winners were drafted inside the top 10, and 6 of those 7 were skill position players. So I'm going with a wideout, and I really like Tet McMillan at plus 1,600 odds. He should immediately be Bryce Young's downfield target in Carolina. Target share and routes ran shouldn't be a problem at all because I expect Carolina to be involved in a lot of high-scoring shootouts with heavy passing scripts. And with no clear, established number 1 wide receiver in Carolina, I think McMillan steps right into that role. Now, for access to all my official bets I post them in what's called an NFL Power Packet. It's a downloadable doc that not only has my future bets, but I update it weekly with my power ratings for each team, along with all types of other helpful information for that upcoming week. It's posted for members of the Betting Network Discord. The invite link to join is in my bio or the description below this video. Hope to see some of you guys in there. Until next time, good luck with your bets.